Hello, I'm Richard
Awesome.
Ray, and if you are a fan of Star Wars Rebels character Ezra Bridger, you will likely recognize the voice of my next guest, seasoned actor Taylor Gray. You can check him out this fall in the psychological thriller Night Night. Welcome, Taylor. Thanks for joining me. Let me ask you about this the first time filming in Texas, first time certainly in the small town of Corsicana. What was that like?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Texas was amazing to shoot in. I've been to Texas before, but I've never filmed anything there. I've done a film back in the day called Thunderstruck, and we did some press there during like an all-star weekend for basketball. But other than that, I've never been to Corsicana, and so it was eye-opening, but also so cool. You got to know so many people in the town, and it was a really enjoyable experience.
What advice would you've had a pretty successful career at a fairly young age. What advice would you give to young actors about pursuing a career in film?
That's a great question. I think I would lead with don't take no as a final answer because you hear so much rejection and you hear every variation of no. As someone who's coming up in the business and even as someone who's been in it for a while, no becomes a commonplace thing. And I think if you put too much weight in that, it can really keep you from achieving what you want to and keep you from pushing on. Whereas I think you just have to look at it as it's a temporary thing. Somebody thinks not right now, but in the future. And if you really enjoy what you're doing, then there's no reason to not keep pursuing it.
Just keep at it. Okay, for those who don't know what Night Night's about, we're calling it a psychological thriller, but give viewers a kind of a thumbnail what this movie's about.
Night Night it's a psychological thriller. It's about this girl who plays my sister, April Davis, getting into an accident. And then we sort of see this story unravel that there's more to this singular event than we thought at first glance. We thought maybe it was just happenstance, it was an accident, but we see that there's more to it, and it's a really exciting thriller.
What drew you to the film? What about it made you say, I want to part in that?
The role of Jax was really alluring. I I find those characters that have their flaws right on they wear their heart on their sleeve and their flaws are out there for everyone to see. And I found that to be an intriguing type of character to play. And also Nikki Cost directing. We'd had mutual friends, but we never worked together. So I think I had looked forward to working with her and collaborating.
Well, your character is certainly kind of a wild card, troublemaker. Any similarities to your own personal character?
I don't know if it's beneficial to say yes, but they do say in every character there is a little bit of you and a little bit of truth, and so I think I'll keep it short and sweet and say yeah, there are definitely some similarities there, but we're not the same person, that's for sure.
You mentioned first time director, at least first time on a feature film, Nikki Koss. Talk about working with Nikki. She's young, but I found her to be really in charge and seemed like she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, no, she was great. She's been on a handful of sets before. She's worked with a lot of my friends as an actor on other projects. And so for her stepping into the directing chair, I believe she directed like a short before, but for her first feature, she really knew what she was doing. She hopped in, took charge. She had a vision, and she had a nice young perspective on this type of story, which I really enjoyed.
And you worked closely with Brenna Damico. Obviously, you played her brother.
Mm.
Uh, that must have been a thrill too. Were you guys friends before you got on the set?
We were not friends either, but again, it's a small world, isn't it? We had multiple mutual friends, but we had never worked together before. So it was fun. I think day one on set, we just started listing off the people that we thought each other might know because I had worked on Nickelodeon through my teenage years. She was on Disney, and then I did some Disney stuff. She did some Nick stuff. Like it was all cross-pollinated, and it was fun to finally be on a project with her and get really close to her.
Really young talent on this, and some veterans like Tony Todd. How's it working with guys like that, and Eric Roberts?
Yeah, Tony Todd was cool to work with. We actually had a handful of scenes together, which was really fun. He was very game to improvise and think on his feet. And so that's always fun when you're doing scenes because you're always present, but it just means that you get to really embody that character even off the page. Whereas you learn your lines, but then once you have your objective in a scene and you guys know where you're headed, it's fun to kind of play around and throw the ball around. And Tony was all about that. And Eric was the very first scene that I shot, actually, when I got out to Corsicana. The first day I was there was with Eric Roberts. And I had to do this fairly long one take of just a zoom in of hearing the news about my sister, who's played by Brenna, getting into this accident. And it was a pretty intense scene. So it was nice working alongside those two veteran actors.
Okay, I keep hearing over and over again from people who worked on this film that it was really a tight-knit group that worked together really well, had a lot of fun. Do you have one or two really fun memories from filming Night Night in Corsicana?
Fun memories. Well, some stories you stay away from just for everyone's benefit. We would stay up often, and we like you said, the crew was very close, so we all stayed at different houses in Corsicana, and we would always sort of congregate at one in particular and have everyone over, have drinks, hang out, play games, and that was always a good time. As far as on set, the very first day that I got there, when I was shooting a scene with Eric Roberts, I show up, and normally you meet like the producers, you meet the cast members, you meet the director. And so I met the other producers when I showed up. They like helped me kind of get acclimated. I met Brenna and Nick Marini, who were also there shooting a scene right before mine. And Nikki was nowhere to be found. And I was like, well, I should really talk to the director before I jump into what I'm going to do with this character. And they were like, oh, well, you can't meet Nikki right now. And it's very hush hush. I didn't really know what was going on. Turns out she had, I think, gotten food poisoning, and we were shooting in a hospital. Funny enough, she was in another ward of the hospital directing. They brought her a monitor, and she was directing over a walkie-talkie. So the first time I met her and was directed by her, it was virtual, which is funny because this was pre-COVID. This was just a couple months before COVID, and it really showed us of what was going to come just doing things virtually, the way we're doing interviews over a computer right now. And so that story was very, very interesting.
That's awesome. Okay, before we let you go, what are you working on now that you'd like to maybe share with folks who follow your career?
Yeah, I actually just got back from Toronto yesterday, the Toronto International Film Festival, a film that I had shot during COVID, actually. So after Night Night, it's called The Wheel. It's directed by Steve Pink, and it also stars Amber Midthunder. That just premiered at TIFF. And then I have a film that's come out in theaters October 15th called Hard Luck Love Song, and that stars Michael Dorman and Sophia Bush and RZA. And then and Eric Roberts is actually in that film as well, which is funny. We didn't shoot together, but he's in another part of it. And then I have another film coming out next year called High Expectations, where I'm playing a professional soccer player.
Busy guy. If people want to follow you, what's the best way to follow you on social media?
I am on Instagram at Taylor Gray 3, and then I am also on Twitter at I am Taylor Gray.
Taylor Gray, thanks for coming on here. I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.